Managing investing comforts. As an investor, comfort management is so important. I've seen so many scenarios go wrong just because of comfort management. People keep thinking property, or finance, the numbers, the interest rates, but you can forget that if you don't have the asset that matches your comfort, all of it could be lost. I'm going to give you an example now where, comfort management, when it's not looked at appropriately, can impact you financially. Let's look at a property where you might have bought it in maybe a bit of a rough patch, maybe an area where there's opportunity for long-term value growth off the back of gentrification. But when you're looking at it, maybe there's some repairs to be done, maybe there's a not so pleasant community from a tenant base, but time and time again, let's not kid ourselves, these properties have produced results in the long term. We've seen areas that once people said, that's too far, I don't want to live there, that's gone and done really well. Then we've seen other areas where that's a rough patch, and then that rough patch has moved out further, and that is a new area that is gentrified and producing phenomenal results. So in terms of performance, hey, these properties could be the peak performers if you add it to your portfolio and manage it appropriately. But what is the part that's getting lost here is comfort management. If you didn't have expectations of what could happen in that rough patch, what could happen from the type of tenant you get, what could happen from maybe the type of property and the repairs and maintenance you might get, those expectations will hit you all at once. And if they don't hit you now, they will hit you later. And so from that perspective, as an investor, you start to question your decision on buying that property. You start to question, was it the right property? You start to question, where does it fit in my portfolio? And is it even worth me, holding on to? And then you start speaking to your friends, you start sharing stories about how the property had this happen to it and that happened to it. It was a nightmare. And off the back of nightmares, guess what your friends are saying? Yep, get rid of it, you don't want that. I just bought this nice property over here and look at all that. But rarely, they might not know the performance levels that could be building up in the back end. So imagine, it's building up in performance in terms of capital growth, which will far outweigh in most scenarios the amount of repairs and renovations and things that you have to do, or the money that's lost in a salty tenancy. But from that perspective, it's forgotten because of your comforts, because of your impact, because of time stress, because of the way you've managed now and the headaches you're getting and all that sort of stuff. And then guess what happens next? That's right, you sell the place. So then what happens when you sell the place is you've invested, say, X money on stamp duty, lawyers, professionals on the buy-in. So your true purchase price is not representative of what you actually bought at because there's all this extra that you paid. Then on the sell, you've got the same extra that you're paying to get rid of it. And now all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm going to use this money to buy the better investment. And now that extra that you had or where you sold it for and where you bought it for, that money that you made, it's now come down to here because what you can reinvest is far less. Because the money that comes out, even if you sold it for a little bit more, is probably going to break even or not allow you as much because you have to pay transactional cost again to buy. So it's costs on the buy, costs on the sell, costs on the buy again, and all of a sudden your asset base is smaller. Now look, you can make that up and say, let me buy a better asset for that asset base. So even though it's smaller, longer term, I feel the ROI percentages might catch up or do better. But in saying that, just imagine what could have happened if when you first made that investing decision, it was one that had your comforts in mind. So I think of a successful property strategy, it needs to consider your finance strategy, the property strategy, and actually one that's always forgotten about is your risk and comfort. It's not always about having the best property because the best property can mean you go in there, you hold it, and you can't hold it because of the environment around you or because of the comforts ingrained in your mind, and all of a sudden you let the best property go. So sometimes it's about managing comfort levels with that right property in that comfort level to achieve a certain result. Or sometimes it's really just having that difficult conversation with someone or yourself and going, look, I need to change my mind on what I'm comfortable with or not. Because someone may not be comfortable with buying an existing house ever and only buy new. Now, some people have made that work for them, but a lot of people haven't. Through losses on off the plan, through losses on land, through losses in so many parts. And that's when they have to question themselves, is my comfort level set right for me to invest? And that's when that discussion comes to light. So that's it from us here at InvestorKit, the experts in wealth creation, helping you take action.